Hi, I'm Caroline Mitchell, canine behaviourist at Good Doggy. So I asked in my reactive behaviour group on Facebook if people had questions about their dog's reactive behaviour, and I got a huge selection of them. So I've picked some out here and I'm going to go through them today with you. And we're going to start with Ruth's question. So Ruth asked, how come my dog can stand quietly a couple of feet away from another dog while I torch his owner, but when we say goodbye, she barks and lunges at the other dog? What can I do to change this? So this happens a lot with dogs that can become quite stressed about visitors to the house. Very often you'll have a visitor that comes in and your dog will be quite stressed out, but once everybody's sat down, your dog will appear to have accepted them being there. They'll maybe even come over and get some pets. They'll come over and to get some attention. But as soon as something changes, so maybe your visitor coughs or sneezes or gets up to go to the bathroom or to leave, then all of a sudden it's like nothing had changed and your dog is really stressed out and behaving really reactively towards that visitor. The same thing is happening here to Ruth's dog when they're on the walk. So when everybody's not moving, if everybody's nice and still and quiet and calm and nothing is changing, then the environment becomes very predictable. So stress comes in three parts. The first part is it predictable? But also, am I in control? And do I have an outlet for my stress to be released? So in this situation, the environment had become very predictable. So this meant that one of the three elements of stress had been eliminated. So the situation had become a third less stressful, or to put it another way, the situation had become a third easier to cope with. So how do we solve this? So we can add more predictors on top of the situation. So I like to add a sequence, perhaps using a clicker, but you can use countdowns, you can use repetition as well. So if a person is going to get up in your home from the sofa, what you can ask them to do is to start a countdown. So they can go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then on 1 they will stand up and then sit back down again. And then you get to do the same thing again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, stand up and then sit down again. So basically what we're doing is we're creating a sequence and repeating it a few times so that our dog starts to understand what the sequence means. It makes that next situation become very predictable. All of a sudden your dog knows what's going to happen next. It won't come as a surprise to them, and they will be able to cope much better with the visitor getting up to move. Obviously you're not going to do this with strangers in the park, but you could set something up with a friend. So once you meet your friend in the park and you're getting ready to move away, then you would ask your friend, or you could do it yourself. You do the countdown, and on 1, she turns and does a little circle. She walks away, then comes back again. And then you do another countdown. She turns and walks around again. So by the time you've done this 5 or 6 times in a row, even without the countdown, it's actually becoming very predictable what this person is going to do next. And your dog's already starting to cope with it better. But adding a countdown as well just doubles up on that. You could even add a clicker too and just go all out on this. So it's creating something that makes the next step predictable, makes it much easier for your dog to cope with it. And then in time, this just becomes a new pattern of behavior for them. So Diane has asked, why does her dog lunge and react to approaching dogs only when she walks her? The dog doesn't do it when her husband walks her. Is it her or is it her dog? She's wondering what's happening here. So this can happen quite a lot. A lot of dogs can be quite intimidated by the approach of another dog. And when that's the case, they have ways of expressing that to the other dog. But very often the other dog just ignores that and just comes over anyway. Might not be the dog's fault. Maybe the dog is on a lead and they're being walked towards you, or maybe they have just become a bit kind of numb to these social cues. But in any case, you asked me there, Diane, if it was you or Ruby, but actually, to be honest, in this situation, if other dogs are ignoring your dog's signals to not come, or at least to take their time and to be careful, then I think it just might be the other dogs. If you're not sure, next time you're out, watch her when she spots another dog. If she's given off calming signals, if she's showing any kind of signs of stiffness, if she stops moving, stiffens up, if she tries to make herself look taller, she might stand still and stare a little bit. Any of these signals here that she's given off to this other dog are really there for the other dog to understand and interpret as please be careful, please take your time, please approach carefully and slowly. And if the dog is doing anything different to that, then that's not really her fault. This would be the same as you standing in the street and somebody trying to approach you and you asking them to leave you alone. But if they keep coming over and they keep pestering you, then your reaction is going to change. And eventually you're just going to get fed up with people coming over to you because nobody's listening when you're asking them to not do that. So you're asking for space and they're not giving it to you. And it's okay then for your dog, for Ruby, to stand her ground a little bit and to tell them in a much more assertive way that she doesn't want their approach and she doesn't want to meet them. Something that might also be making a difference is possibly your anxiety levels might be higher when you're out and about walking. Maybe you've also become pretty fed up with these dogs approaching your dog all the time. And when you see one coming towards you, you've instinctively reacted to it as well. And maybe your husband is just more relaxed about the whole thing. Of course, I'm not blaming you or your husband for your anxiety or anything like that, but it does have a factor. So if she's sensing that your anxiety levels are changing, that could make her more alert to it as well, which makes her more sensitive to the stuff that's happening. But if you're watching this, or if anybody else is watching this, thinking this could be their dog, then I suggest you get your phone out and try and record your dog's reaction to another dog next time. And you can slow it down and really notice every single little micro change in their behavior. And if you see any of that stuff, any kind of stiffness, any kind of backing away, staring, all of that, then that is your dog communicating to the other dog. But if the other dog chooses not to listen and come over anyway, then your dog, of course, will react to that. Lynn has asked, Winston barks, backs off and darts around when anything he hasn't seen before comes into his space. So this could be things like a bandage on a hand or a perfume squirter or a squeezy cheese. Why is he acting so reactive? So the short answer here is that he has probably quite low resilience. So he hasn't made a plan about how to cope with new and novel items into his environment. So he automatically reacts with suspicion. And because he doesn't have resilience, he's not able to bounce back from that very, very well. He could be curious on the inside, but curiosity and resilience are polar opposites of each other. It's not possible to be confident and anxious at the same time. And this affects all different kinds of behavior. So any kind of training that you're doing with him will help to fix that. Anything that is reward-based, training that is not reward-based really just erodes resilience and erodes confidence. So that makes them less curious and less able to adapt to new things. So what you're trying to do is counter all of that and really boost up his confidence and his resilience through any kind of training at all. So Claire asks about her dog. He is quite loud, he lunges and yaps loudly at other dogs or animals if they're too close, and he's like this in the car as well, and it's particularly unbearable in the car. She says she can't drive past a dog that's being walked on a footpath, for example, or she can't park her car anywhere that there might be another dog because he's just going mad in the back of the car. She can't black out the windows, and she can't put a crate in the back because she has another dog there as well. So what can she do about this? So we know that he is also reactive to dogs in a public setting, so on walks. So that's where I would start first, because when you start the training process, your dog needs you to do all the work for them. So you need to be very prepared, you need to be managing the environment, you need to manage the space, you need to have your treats and your clickers ready or whatever other tools that you're using. None of these things are possible when you're in the car. So when you're working with your dog out in a public space, you have full control over everything, and you can use this opportunity to teach them what you want them to do. So at the very start, obviously, you're putting all the effort in, you're being prepared, you're managing everything. But as the training process goes on, the confidence will grow and your dog will start to learn a new behavior. And you'll just practice and repeat this until eventually it becomes a new habit. So over time, you start off doing 100% of the work, but that gradually just changes so that by the time you finish the process outside, your dog is really doing 95% of the work, and all you're going to do is reinforce that at the end with a reward, whether that's your click or your treat, or praise, or a little bit of everything, or whatever it is that you're doing. So all of the other stuff becomes less and less required as the process goes on, because your dog is understanding what you want them to do and he's trying to do it by himself. When you get to that stage where your dog is actually choosing the behavior that you would like, and then you're just basically reinforcing that with a reward, then you can start trying to do your training in the car. But up until that point, there's no point, because you can't manage your space. You can't change whether another dog might walk past your car. You can't affect where you drive it. You can't just veer off into the bushes if another dog is in a different car coming past you. You have so little control over your environment and your space. And of course, you have to be driving safely on top of all of this stuff. So you don't have access to clickers and treats. Your hands are busy. Your attention is busy, which is absolutely how it should be. But it means you just don't have any spare resources for your dog. When you're out on your walk, you really do. So take advantage of that time. And once that's ready and you've got something that's working, then you can roll that into the car. And your effort will be much better rewarded, rather than trying to go for broke while you're in the car, because it's just nearly impossible. So Angie has asked what she should do when her dog flattens himself onto the ground when he sees another dog approaching. She's suggested a few different options. So she's wondering, should she just let him lie there and let him creep towards them? Should she stand still until the dog goes by? Should she stand in front of him so that he can try and focus on her? Should she do a sharp turn away from the approaching dog, or something else? So basically what this looks like to me, it looks like an invitation to play chases. This is a really common behavior for a dog when they pretend to stalk the other dog. Then when the other dog gets close enough, they kind of pounce on them, and then they all just charge about. If the dogs are on leads, of course, this makes things very complicated. So the leads can end up getting tangled up and things like that. So the first thing to do is to get in there beforehand. So there's 3 parts to every behavior: the before, the during, and the after. So while the behavior is in actual progress, so at this point, that would mean the bit where he's already lying on the ground, whatever you're going to do with him is going to make the least amount of difference. So the time to start is the moment he has become aware of the other dog. So you can use a clicker to reward him as he walks towards the other dog. I made a video about how to solve reactive behavior with a clicker. Although it's a slightly different situation, the process is exactly the same. So you see the other dog coming towards you, your clicker starts. So already he's doing the right thing. You haven't got close enough yet that he's decided to go into his, go down onto the ground and ground himself. So he's still walking. So we're rewarding that loads. You might get 5 or 6 clicks in a row, or even more if you start super early. Then they'll come to a point where you get close enough to the other dog and he goes into the middle part of the behavior, which is the active bit. That's the bit you're trying to stop. So now he's lying down on the floor and refusing to move. So at this point then, we're going to wait that part out. And once that is finished, we move into the after section. So the beginning bit, the lead in, we've done lots of rewards, telling him, I want you to keep doing this. And then we get to the middle part, which is the bit which we don't want. We're going to just ignore that. When we get to the end part, when he's got back up again, we can go back to our click-in. So we're going, that's what you should have done. That's what I wanted you to do. And then he gets his treat. So we're rewarding the behavior that we really want. The bit in the middle, we're holding out. We're just waiting through that. Over time, that gap in the middle part will start to shrink itself, because he'll keep walking further and further towards the dog than he did before. He'll get up quicker than he did before. So eventually the gap just disappears all on its own, and you will just walk and click all the way past. I really hope you're getting lots of useful hints and tips and ideas from watching the videos here on my YouTube channel. Behaviour training, though, is a complex thing, and there are so many variables and options and different ways to approach things. And sometimes working on it alone can feel quite lonely and frustrating at times. Sometimes you'll question whether you're doing the right thing, or whether you might even be making things worse. If this is you, don't worry, I'm here for you. Privately, I can guide you through and support you through the process wherever you are. We'll start with an assessment session where I'll get to know your dog. I'll get to learn what makes him tick, any history. We'll learn about the behaviours you need help with. And then once we've figured out what's gone wrong and what techniques will suit him best, we'll make a plan just for him. Then we'll follow up with a series of private sessions where we'll address the root cause, work on related behaviours, boost resilience, and build on the behaviour training plan together until you have something that is working for you both. If that's something that's of interest to you, Please check out the information on this video for details about how to get in touch and how to find out more about how I can navigate you through this process. And finally, Debbie asks, she has 2 rescue dogs. One is very nervous and the other is pretty daft and likes to copy his brother. If they see other dogs, the nervous one gets all jumpy and excited, but then he has a go at his brother, who then kicks off, and he's barking now and lunging at the other dog. She does usually try and correct the nervous one, but he's triggering his brother and it's all just a bit of a nightmare. So here the answer is that the nervous pup is on his lead and he is obviously wanting to get to the other dog, but the lead has stopped him from doing that. So the lead has trapped him in that spot, and the energy that's building up there, that frustration, that excitement, that anxiety, in this case it's anxiety, but this happens in lots of different ways. In any case, the energy has nowhere to go. So he can't run it off, he can't run to the other dog, so he then turns on and releases it onto his brother. This happens an awful lot. Some dogs will redirect this energy onto each other, some will take it out on their lead, others will grab their owner's coat or their ankles. But whatever it is, it's a release of energy that has become built up by being trapped on the lead. So the first thing to do is to start at a distance. Talk about distance a lot with reactive dogs, because when your dog is at a distance, it means the emotion is much lower and they are still using their thinking brain. When you get too close, they go over threshold, that emotion has burst, everything has become overwhelming. So we don't really want them to be at that stage. So you've got to start at quite a nice distance away. And this is the distance that he's going to be able to cope with. We can give him lots of things that can help him release tension. We can take toys with us. We can give him toys that will allow him to shred things and tear things. Often dogs that have a lot of frustration don't just have it at that moment. Their frustration can come at other times of the day. So you might see them destroying things at home. Maybe they have a bit of separation anxiety, or, they're particularly destructive on their own toys. So frustration can stack through the day. So we want to make sure that through the day there are plenty of outlets to remove that frustration and to let that out. So shredding toys, digging toys, things that you can tear up, things that he can destroy all throughout the day, but also bring them on your walk. So a tug toy or something like that he can suddenly shake. Remember earlier in this video, I mentioned about 3 outlets for stress, and these kinds of toys are brilliant for that. So they can release stress very, very quickly, and they can release all kinds of frustration and anxiety and everything else too. So we're going to start at a distance. We're going to start helping him build up some good experiences, nice and calm, do some training with him at a distance. And then as he gets better and he copes better and he stops redirecting onto his brother, then you can start to reduce that distance, but very gradually. He really doesn't want to notice that you've actually tried to reduce the distance. It should happen so casually and so gradually that he barely knows it's happening. And he keeps looking for his toy, he keeps looking for his tricks that he's doing, and eventually you'll be able to walk him right past another dog with no issues. But the trick here is to start at a distance and to very slowly reduce that distance, but still using things that give him an outlet for reducing stress, and give him things that he can do that are rewarding, like his little tricks that he knows how to do, and things like that. There's tons of other things you could try as well, but these things are safe to do without an assessment, so you can just go on ahead and do them without feeling like you could make things worse or anything else like that. So that was really fun to answer everybody's questions on here. If you've got a question of your own, stick it in the comments and I'll ask it next time. And if you're interested in Reactive group, then I will put a link to that in the description as well, so you can come and join us in my Facebook group for Reactive dogs. See you on the next video. Take care. Bye bye.